massacre in Kenya. On April 2nd, at least 148 people were killed and over 70 were injured in the attack on Garissa University. Victims were chosen carefully. The gunmen from the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab freed Muslim students but shot Christians and Jews. They said the shooting was in retaliation for killings carried out by Kenyan troops fighting the Islamist rebels in Somalia. This was the deadliest assault in Kenya since the 1998 United States Embassy bombing. The country has suffered several terrorist attacks over the past few years, including the one on the Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi in 2013. The Kenyan government has vowed to stand up against such threats in order to protect the country, which attracts hundreds of thousands of tourists a year thanks to its renowned safari adventures. Our focus this week is on Kenya. Hello and welcome to our focus on Kenya, where the government has offered a $215,000 reward for Muhammad Mahmoud, the mastermind behind the April 2nd Garissa attack. To hear more about the latest progress in the investigation, let's bring in our first guest for today, Ian Wafula, a local journalist at KTN channel who's now in Garissa. Hi Ian, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
So Ian, we know who masterminded this terror attack. What do we know about the gunman's identity so far?
Well, actually what we do know as up to now is that at least 4 gunmen were killed, but the number of the gunmen who stormed the school is still questionable, because once you talk to the survivors, others give different figures ranging from 6 to 7 to up to 10. So we're not really sure as to how many there were. But one thing we know for sure is that one of the terrorists was identified as 26-year-old Abdirahman Abdullahi, who surprised many people, because unlike the narrative that we've always had, that most of the youth who get recruited into Al-Shabaab are from poor backgrounds and they are unemployed. He was exactly the opposite. He was from a very well-to-do background. In fact, he was the son of a government official. So this just changed the narrative as to just how the youth are being radicalized. It's no longer the unemployed, it's no longer the poor youth. And so far, that is the only terrorist we do know about.
Ian, you are now located in Garissa. What can you tell us about the atmosphere and the outrage over the past week? Any increase in fear of Islam?
This is not the first time we're seeing a terrorist attack, or rather cases of insecurity within Garissa. So one thing that came out is that majority of this, the residents claim that corruption is the reason why we're witnessing some of these terror attacks. Reason being, for instance, some of the guns that were used to kill the students here in Garissa must have come from somewhere. It means that they passed through a number of roadblocks which are manned by the police. Does this mean that the police did not see? I don't think so. They claim that, you know, some of the police have also been bribed to let some of these guns pass through, and other illegal material that comes to the town and other parts of the country. So they say that corruption is indeed the real cause towards terrorism in the country.
And as you said before, Kenya has suffered several terror attacks in the past 2 years. How does this new reality dictated by Al-Shabaab militia affect government policy now?
Once the president addressed the nation just days after this attack, he said that he blamed this attack on the lack of enough personnel within the police system. So he ordered at least 10,000 recruits who'd been asked to join the Kenya Police Service to begin training effective immediately. And
Ian, Muslims are a minority in your country. What can you tell us about the dynamics between them and the Christian majority, maybe especially now after this terror attack?
The Muslim leaders and the Christians have sat together and have agreed that they shall not be separated by this terror group, because should they do that, it would mean that the terror group has won.
Ian Wafula, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you very much as well.
Kenya has
one of the largest economies in East and Central Africa and a strong agricultural sector. However, the unequal distribution of wealth has left half of the country's population living below the poverty line. Just like many other African countries, Kenya receives massive international aid from different NGOs and also from the United Nations in order to alleviate hunger and poverty. But if you ask the Kenyan economy expert, James Shikwati, this might be causing more harm than help. Hello. So, James, when you read these headlines and adverts calling for development aid for Africa, you don't view it as a positive thing, right?
Yeah, we are coming from a background where the traditional aid systems have had a negative impact on Africa in the sense of having African leaders surrender their responsibilities to donors, in the sense when it comes to economic development, disaster management, looking at aspects of how to secure their own borders. It has always tended to be looking out for outsiders to bring solutions to the African countries.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is that aid from foreign countries to Africa is bad for Kenya's economy?
The political pronouncements would be pointing out that the country can run its own show. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to serious challenges that affect the country, then you'll get the leadership again going out to foreign countries to seek assistance. And yet, the capacity can be built within Kenya to make Kenyans to be able to solve their own challenges.
Mm-hmm. And how developed is the Kenyan economy if you compare it to other African economies?
In the Eastern Africa region, Kenya is viewed to be the biggest economy. I mean, we're looking at, after rebasing last year, Kenya's economy grew by 25%. That was after recalculation from $40 billion to $53.4 billion kind of economy, which means Kenya now is ranked as a low middle income country, which means it drives bigger investor confidence compared to its neighbors. So in terms of the region, yes, Kenya still is a key player in the economy.
James Shikwati, interesting view. Thank you very much. And now what else is going on in Kenya?
U.S. President Barack Obama will visit Kenya in July, even in the wake of the terrorist attack at Garissa University College earlier this month. Obama will be making his first trip to his father's homeland as president to attend the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. The U.S. president said Kenyans should know they have an unwavering friend and ally in the U.S. Human rights groups are urging changes to Kenya's HIV and AIDS Prevention Act, which effectively criminalizes pregnant women who pass HIV to their babies. The law was introduced to curb the spread of HIV and AIDS in Kenya. Last month, the country's high court ruled sections of the law unconstitutional. A report released last month ranks Kenya's women among the most connected in the world. Released against the backdrop of International Women's Day, the report described benefits presented by mobile phones as an empowerment tool. The study placed Kenya's gender equality at position 37 out of 142 countries surveyed. Last week, cars raced through the Kenyan jungle for the 63rd annual KCB Safari Rally. The winner crossed the finish line with a margin of 13 seconds over the runner-up, which is the smallest ever recorded in the history of the Safari Rally since it was first held in 1953. Swedish EDM DJ and electro house record producer Avicii is the new owner of a luxurious vacation home on the shores of Malindi, Kenya. The 25-year-old house star's new 8-bedroom house sits on a lot amounting to 25 acres. Malindi over the years has established itself as an ideal seaside hideaway for the rich and famous.
In 2011, Paul and Gail Woods were on holiday in Mombasa, Kenya. It was there that they came across children lying asleep on the busy pavements in the city center, children with nowhere to live, nowhere to go, hungry, with no hope. From that moment, they decided that someone needed to do something to help these children. 4 years later, they're still there helping children every day. And now we're very, very honored to be joined by Paul and Gail Woods, who founded the Gap Kenya charity. Hello, thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Hi, it's a pleasure, thank you.
Hi, Gail, let's start with you. you. I know you were a nurse in the UK, and I wanted to ask you what brought you initially to Kenya along with your husband, and what decisive moment made you stay?
Okay, well, I've worked as a midwife here in the UK for 30 years, but in 2011, we went on holiday to Kenya, and it was just a normal holiday that we decided to go into the city itself to have a look at the attractions there. And whilst we were there, we came across the street children. They were just lying on the pavements or at the side of the road, and people were ignoring them. They just walked past them, they stepped over them, but they just totally ignored them. It really, really touched our hearts when we saw the children. And because we're both Christians, we just felt that we were being called to go to Kenya to help these street children. And there and then we made the decision that's what we would do.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, what exactly does your organization, GAP Kenya, do?
Well, basically, there are three parts to what we do. The first part is a feeding program where we go out and feed the children on the streets. Secondly, we run what we call a daycare centre, where the street kids come in and, they have meals, they have showers, wash the clothes. And then last and not least, we have what we call a family home at the moment, just the one, which can have up to 10 children in it. And they've come off the street. They're with us permanently and living with a Kenyan couple that we employ as their step-parents. And, they're in there and they're sent to school every day. And we've had some good successes recently with the educational results. So I hope that answers the question, but those are the three things that we actually do, yeah.
Sounds great. Gail, what can you tell us about the everyday struggles which these children have to deal with?
Basically, they spend the days when they're on the streets themselves, just wandering around. They look for food at the back of hotels. They beg from people. On the dump site, they wait until the refuse trucks arrive, and then as the refuse is being taken from the truck, they're routing through it. They look through the plastic bottles that they can sell, but they're also looking for food that they can eat.
Oh, wow. Is there a certain personal story of someone you've saved that you can maybe share with us?
A boy called Ellie. He came to us and he lived in the family setting and he went to school. He started off at the bottom of his class, but slowly, with a lot of hard work, he sort of improved. And in December just gone, he took his exams from primary school and got a really good result.
Guys, thank you so much for this very inspiring interview. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Tourism has a long-standing tradition in Kenya and in fact was more well-developed there than in any other East African country before independence. After independence, tourism was the fastest growing sector of the nation's economy. And of course, what is more attractive to tourists than seeing the king of the jungle in its natural habitat? Joining us now from Nairobi National Park is Daniel, a safari tour guide from Go Kenya Safari. Hey, Daniel.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Just be careful of the lion out there behind you.
The lions, we have not spotted them yet, but maybe later.
Well, Daniel, we know that many tourists...
they are still sleeping at the moment.
Oh, we see. So many tourists come to Africa. They seek for the full safari adventure. What do you recommend to these people?
One of the national parks that we recommend our tourists to visit is the famous Masai Mara National Reserve, which at the moment has been rated as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Actually, we normally recommend our clients to do more than 4-day safaris, because when they do that, then they have a lot of high chances of seeing the Big 5.
I heard about the Big 5 attraction. What is it actually?
The first animal which is in the Big 5 is called the elephant. And as you know, elephants have no enemies apart from human beings. Then we also have the buffalo. And then the third one, we have the rhino. And then we have the lions.
Yeah.
And then the last one, we have the leopard. And as you can know, leopards, they weigh between 65 kilograms, and they can take twice their weight, which they have killed, up on the tree. So when they kill an impala, they will take it up on the tree and enjoy that meal up on the tree there.
I'm sure they enjoy it. Daniel, in what way did the terror attack in the university affect the safari tourism industry?
Well, we cannot deny that we have been affected in a way, because we have a bit of cancellation, but the high season from June looks very bright. We have a lot of bookings and a lot of inquiries. But yes, we have been affected in one way or the other.
Daniel, thank you so much for bringing us the mini safari adventure to our studio here.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate.
Indeed, and thank you all of our viewers as well for focusing with us on Kenya today. Next week we have another very interesting country coming up. Stay in touch.